before while we were preparing for getting ready, you know, waiting for everybody to come into the circle, into the Zoom meeting. So I might go back over a couple of those things. I'm sorry if you hear it a second time, but so anyway, tonight I want to do a ritual whereby we use Yoruban goddesses and gods, orishas, to help us do something for ourselves. And I chose to do some candle magic, which is a very typical, if you go into a botanica store and you talk to the priestess or priest that's in there and you have a problem, they may do a reading for you, but then they're going to start giving you candles and herbs and other kinds of things to use to do whatever needs to be done, whether it's just an offering candle, or if you have a court situation going on, if you have work stuff going on, could be good or bad, doesn't have to always be bad. If you're looking for love, or if you're trying to deal with relationship issues, prosperity, health, you name it, just like with any of the pagan traditions, they deal with this very much with candle magic. And then usually accompanying your candle magic will be things that you carry with you to complement that candle magic, so that you can be constantly reminded during your day in a very quiet, you know, way. You can put a bag of rocks in your pocket, you know, and only you know what that means. And every time you touch it or every time it moves, it might make you think about what you're trying to do. So especially if you're trying to make, like when we're trying to make personal changes, maybe in our own behaviors or that sort of thing, or we're trying to be more, say, grateful and maybe less cranky, like I try to do that a lot. Or other, you know, anything that you're really trying to achieve. It's always wonderful to complement a little mojo bag together with your candle magic. So like I said earlier, mine is going to be about work for me. My work is very successful, but I'm finding myself at a place where I want to go to the next level, and I'm also getting a little old to do the physical labor of a landscaper. I'm a landscaper and gardener, and I do natives, and I'm an environmentalist. So I'm trying to figure out how to move to the next level. So I've got my oil here that's called Road Opener. Okay. And I also have some Lilith perfume oil, and Lilith perfume oil is for women, for badass women. That would be me. So, and then I've also got glitter here. So, just like when we do any kind of magic as a witch, we use color associations, right? Color. So I have red to emphasize my badassness, you know, and maybe give me a little fire under my ass to get my stuff together to make sure I do what I'm supposed to be doing. I can be a little procrastinator on occasion. Gold for prosperity, because I definitely want it to be something that I can put some money in my pocket. And then green, because, well, green is growth, and also I'm a landscaper, so I deal with green stuff all the time, right? And I guess you could say gold could also represent somewhat the earth as well, because that's as you can see, can you guys see the sort of connections of like all of this stuff all comes back to connect to each other, which is why we have things like using different kinds of I'm having a brain fart with the word, but when we have different associations, like colors are associated with certain things, numbers are associated with certain things, certain numbers are associated with certain colors. So especially in the Yoruba traditions and with the orishas, you can see down here, this is actually the 7 African powers down here. I have in the very middle here is Elegua, because you always call Elegua first. And when we start, once I finish with my intro, we'll talk a little bit more about him, but you always call Legua right after you call the ancestors. So Legua, and then I've got Yamaya to, I guess it would be, if you're over in that way, to your right, but my left. And then Obatala is on the other side of Elegua. And then we've got Oya. And for anybody who's ever seen the 7 African powers, usually, and I've got a candle here, you do not see Oya. Usually there is Oshosi. But I went with something that I got familiar with when I was reading Jambalaya. Louisa Tish, who practices like, earth magic, but she is a voodoo priestess in New Orleans, and she's a feminist. So because the 7 African powers is kind of a little bit skewed towards males, she changed it so it would be a little bit more representative and equally feminine, because Yamaya represents the mother, Oya to me represents the crone, and of course Oshun, who is the final one, represents the maiden. And then on the other side you got Obatala, you got Ogun, and you got Shango. So you've got the father. I see Ogun as more like a sage. He's like a guy that doesn't want to be bothered by people. He wants to live in the woods because people are stupid and they do dumb stuff. Like some of the Orishas can definitely be a little bit judgmental about humans. And then you got Shango. I think of him more as like the youth. He's not that he's that young, but he's like the virile macho man, very attractive. He's the drummer guy. All of my husbands have been him. I've represented sort of him, so that you can see when you have all these 7 African powers together, they kind of give a nice balance of male and female energy, and this idea of, as a guardian, you have Elegua in the middle. So I set up here basically a 7 African powers altar. I've got a candle here for 7 African powers that will also light when we're doing the ritual is going to be actually creating the candles and the mojo bags. So that's going to be a part of that ritual. So anyway, so all these guys here, and this is not even, there's way more Orishas. There's many, many, many more. There's many resources. I think when I gave you guys all the handout from the last class, there was lots of resources regarding researching different Orishas to see which one kind of makes you maybe works with you. Like if you work with mother goddesses, you might be attracted to Yamaya. If you work more with like trickster gods, you might like Elegua. Or you might not feel any affinity for any of them, and that's fine too. Like this is just like another way that you can do it, another tradition that might speak to you. I think I've clarified in the first class, but I'll do that again, that I am not a Santera. I am not in any way a priestess of any traditional Yoruban group. My training comes from, as I mentioned earlier, my mother, my spiritual mother, owned a botanica store in Broward County, but she was a white woman, so it wasn't like she was Wiccan, but she was a respected member of the spiritual community, and she had a lot of clients. Her business was right in the middle of a very mixed neighborhood, right on 441 and Broward Boulevard. So very accessible to pretty much any person that you could possibly imagine was in her store. So it was very, very cross-cultural and interesting place to learn about this particular tradition. I'm going to turn the light on right now so that you can actually see a little bit more this altar. I only had it off before for a little bit of mood lighting. But maybe now you want to actually have a look at the altar. If you can see back here and way in the back, this is my Yamaya altar that is up all the time. It's probably my biggest altar. Can't really see higher, but right above her is also Oya and Oshun are up there, and there's some other traditional, I don't know if they would be called orishas, because I'm not sure if Our Lady of Guadalupe is, I don't know, she's associated with the Mexican Earth Mother pre-Christianity, but I don't know that she's specifically associated with any particular African orisha. So this is where the Native American stuff sort of starts to come in with that. But it's very interesting how diverse it is and how much the urban traditions take into consideration things like, obviously, they originally weren't able to, when they were brought here and as enslaved people, they had to practice it as Catholicism, so it was very much undercover. But now, in this day and age, you see if you go into a botanical store, you'll see influences from Asia, with Lucky Buddha type things. You'll also see things from the Native American community. There's lots of, I think there's one, I don't really work with that too much. Of course, there's the Virgin of Guadalupe, who is associated with the Mexican Earth Mother, and I will not try to pronounce her name because there's not too many vowels in there, and I'm not very good at pronouncing that stuff. And then also other native, I think there's also some like Indian luck candles as well, and some other kinds of Indian influence things, as well as, of course, the African, obviously. So on my altar here at the front, as you can see, everything is white. We're wearing white. We have a white head covering because in the urban traditions, I believe that for them, like, this is very real, and especially if you are literally interacting with the spirits, like, you want to be able to protect yourself, and this is a way to protect your crown chakra from anything coming into you that you may not want there. It's also white, of course, so you'll find that they always tend to wear white, and as you can see, I've got lots of different beads on, and each of them have a very specific purpose or represent a particular orisha. You can see down here with the altar things here, all of these different beads are the necklaces that are color and number coordinated according to which orisha likes what. So Yamaya, her number is 7, and her colors are blue and either white or crystal clear, and then depending on any path that specific within, just like we all wear different hats, the orishas have different aspects that do different things, and they'll have different colors associated. So all shades of blue are Yamaya. So I have here on me these beads here, which are in groups of 7, so that there's 7 blue beads and 7 clear beads, and then on the actual string there are, I think, 21, which is 7 times 3. So there'll always be multiples of 7. And then if you know anything about number magic and number associations, of course, there's all of those things also come into play here too. Each of these will be associated with something different. So Shango is 6, and his colors are red and white. This is Ogun, and his number is 4, and his color is green and black. Obatala, his numbers are 2 and 8, and his colors are white and purple. Elegua, he is associated with the number 4, and his colors are black and red, and he is the opener of ways, and he is the guardian of the crossroads and also of the cemetery. So he's like the messenger of the gods. So you always call upon him if you're doing any kind of work with the orishas before you start. And then we have Yamaya, like I already told you, her colors are blue and crystal, and number is 7. Oya, her number is 9, and she has rainbow is one of her. So pretty much all the colors in the rainbow, but also maroon, like dark, like pumpkin orange, dark purple. Those are all her colors, flowery types of things. And then Oshun, who is the maiden, there is a Pataki that talks about this. Her color is yellow or gold, and she's the only Orisha that can use that color for a specific reason. She is the maiden, and she likes to be a flirt, and she gets a lot of things by doing those kinds of, like, sort of flirting and being very sweet and everything, and that's how she gets her way. But her colors are also yellow and aquamarine and coral, and her number is 5. So, and 5 is associated with love, I believe. Anyway, so as you can see, they all have color, number, and associations, and you can use this when you're doing your magic. So if you're doing the candle, you'll put, if you're working with, say, Yamaya, you know her number is 7, so you're going to use 7 drops of oil. So you can use all of the stuff if you're trying to connect with these orishas, and that it just basically, it's layers and layers of connecting with those beings. And the more you know, the more you can connect, and the more you'll make associations that are very personal also. Like, I have a lot of very personal associations with Yamaya that if I told somebody who was a Santero, they'd probably think I was a little bit weird, because they don't make any sense necessarily to them, but they make total sense to me because of the associations that they all connect with. Because I do practice every day. I practice a fairy shamanism that's very Celtic flavored, and so it's kind of a far cry between Africa and Britain, Scotland, Ireland. But because of the ocean aspect of Yamaya, it really helps me connect with some of the ocean gods and goddesses of my Celtic people. So anyway, all I'm saying is the ways that you can connect with the orishas is multifaceted, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that would argue that I'm not correct, but I feel like the gods and the goddesses, and I've been told this by many Santeros in the past, the orishas, you don't choose them, they choose you. And it doesn't make any difference who you are, where you come from, male or female. It doesn't make any difference. If you connect with them, it is good. I have not seen negative. If you take it with respect, you must be respectful. You must do your research and try, if you can, like, go to a botanica store. Just go and kind of wander around. Go there a bunch of times. Buy little things. Talk to the people behind the counter. It can be daunting for sure, but I think there's a few places, if you're persistent and you're polite and respectful, that you can get information. And there's also lots of different places that bookstores and things like that, where you can at least get information, that before you venture out to do that, you can do a little bit of research on your own, just so you don't feel totally lost with it. So the rest of my altar sort of reflects a little bit my Celtic roots, and that is, I don't know if y'all can notice it, but there's a candle on each of the 4 corners of the table, and they represent the elements. And to me, this works because of the color part of it, the color magic, the color concept. But if you go, like when I do my Yamaya ritual, I don't call the quarters specifically, but I have chosen in the 4 directions to have one of the aspects of Yamaya to be standing there. So in the West, it's Yamaya Olokun, of the deep sea. In the East, it's Yamaya Esesu. I can't remember what the other 2 are right off the top of my head, but they represent very particular aspects that for me personally represent the elements and the quarters that I associate with them. Because of course, even when you come to the quarters, my very own teacher, for her, the West was air and the East was water, which confused the crap out of me when I started practicing with other people. And then I realized that I personally didn't agree with her, and I don't practice that way. So that's the other thing, is learn all you can, experience all you can, be respectful, and talk and ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can. I mean, especially in this group, all of the leaders and all of the teachers are really happy to help you with any kind of information that you might want to know about different kinds of things. So I think if you have things out in the open, then they stop being frightening, and they also stop being divisive as well. So I think maybe now we can start the ritual. And at the end of all this stuff, I'll have time for questions and answers. So if you don't mind waiting until the end to ask any questions, that would be awesome. So the first thing I want to do to get started is everybody get comfortable. We're going to do a little bit of a breathing exercise and just sort of get ourselves ready to receive the information, to be open to it. So close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Hold your breath for a moment. Let it out. Another deep breath in. Hold it for a moment. And let it out. One final time. Take a deep breath in. Hold it for just a moment. And release. So right now, I'm going to call on the ancestors to join us. To those who have gone before, we ask for your blessings. Iku lobi ocha. For the dead, give birth to the orishas. Ashe. As you can see over here, I have an altar for the ancestors. It's a little off on the side there, but there's an offering of wine and of fruit, honey, and cornmeal, and of course some white flowers. It's all supposed to be white over there. And then we're now going to call Elegua to join us and to act as our messenger.
Elegba, Echualagbana, Nicocori Villa. Bara atento no o manico dolo. Icuyelebe. Bara quiyelu. Echuafra. Agola roye. Elegba.
So now I'm going to call on the 7 African powers to join us. And I'm going to ask Birch if she would not mind lighting our final candle and also our incense, which is our offering to the gods. Actually, I like the incense.
Yeah.
Just this one. She'll have to get uncomfortable now. Call upon the 7 African powers. Elegwa, Yamaya, Obatala, Oya, Ogun, Oshun, and Shango to join us and to bless our dealings this evening, and to bless our candles and our mojo bags to be powerful and do as we need them to do for us. So mote it be. All right, so this is the part where we do the stuff. So I'm going to actually show you exactly how I dress my candles. First, you have to blast it off. So this one actually already has some oils on it because it's actually got 7 herbs for cleansing and clearance. So this is my first candle, and for me this is to help me get rid of any blocks that are keeping me from being successful in my desires and my wish to move forward with my company. So I'm going to use my Athame. The first thing I usually do is I take it and let me see if I can show you. I don't want to dump out the oils. I'll make a pentacle. Go. All right, and then I take my Athame once more and I put it right on the points of the Athame, of the pentacle, excuse me, on the inside. This is so that some of the oil and some of the glitter can go down the side. If you have a longer, sharper one, you can make it go all the way down the side. My Athame is not as big, or long rather, as some. So this Athame I only use for magical purposes. So I'm also going to do the same thing for my action candle. So this is the candle that I'm going to use to ask the Orishas, the 7 African powers, to help me with this next phase. So I'm going to do another pentacle, excuse me. Everybody knows what a pentacle is, right? Once again, I'm going to go down the side just like that. It's all fine and well to do candle magic, but if you don't get actually shown how do you know, right? Here you go. All right. Many, many times saw a lady down there doing this. Okie dokie. So the next thing, I would add the oils. So I'm going to add road opener. Now, if you know anything about number magic, for cleansing, I'm just going to put I think I'm going to put 3 dabs in there for my cleansing candle. I want to have the road open Lady Demeter in her store, she had big bottles, easy squirt bottles to get all this stuff. So I'm also going to put road opener on my other candle, which is my work candle. And I'm going to actually put 4 in this one, because for me 4 is work, it's earth, it all sort of goes back, and especially since this is green. So for me, this is like a good number. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I am not going to put Lilith oil on the cleansing one, because I'm trying, the cleansing one for me is to keep me calm, to get rid of any like crankiness or things that are getting in my way to actually doing what I want to do. So I'm not going to put Lilith in there because it's a little bit more of a like a ass kicking kind of oil. There's let's see, it's got ambrette seed, jasmine, sandalwood, cedarwood, camphor, and patchouli. So it's quite a potent mix. So I am going to put 7 drops because Yamaya is my goddess. 1, 2, 3. Only a little tiny bit comes out when I do that. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my glitter. Now the glitter is both for color magic and for basically a little sparkle, and it's metal, so it's earth. It's like actual, you know, fruition of what you're trying to do. So I'm going to put on the clearance one, I'm just going to actually put the green because I want something that's calming and earthy. I don't want anything that's going to pep the situation up. So I'm just putting little green sparkles on the top. And on the other one, I'm doing green because this is my business. I'm a landscaper. Green represents the plants, and I want to be successful with them. Now gold, I'm going to put this on the action candle, and this gold represents prosperity. It represents the earth also, and earth magic. And a little bit of glitter, because what I want to do is going to involve probably doing a little bit more lecturing. And then finally the red one, which I'm only going to put on the action candle once again. And that one, I think I'm going to put 6 shakes on there because, well, for me, it represents Shango, and he is like the ta-da, he's the show guy, he's the drummer. And 6 also happens to be my favorite number from when I was a really little girl. I remember being in church and being really distressed because I liked the number 6, but apparently that was the number of the beast. I was so distraught by that. So now let's give us 6 shakes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now, I'm also going to add onto my clearance candle, my prep candle, I'm going to put a little sage in there because sage is cleansing. So it makes sense. You know, I'm also going to put a little bit of sage over on my action candle for clarity and grounding. Then I also have lavender. This is fresh, beautiful lavender, which I'm going to let Birch smell. You should just take the bowl. So I'm going to put lavender on both of them also. And on the first one, it's for peace, right? And on the second one, for me also peace, because I'm really trying to do this in a way, my business in a way that is not going to make me stressed out and crazy. So for me, this represents my desire for that. So the final thing I have here is actually rosemary out of my own garden. And I'm actually just going to put that on my action candle. And for me, this represents clarity of vision, clarity of communication, memory, which I have a terrible memory. And it also represents protection. So as you can see, when you're doing magic for this, you can also be using herbal magic, and that is a major, huge part of any of the Yoruban traditions, is going to be the herbs. Each of the orishas is also associated with very specific herbs, and there's one orisha, Oshun, who is the he rules over all the herbs, and he lives in the forest, and he doesn't like to be bothered by people, which I totally understand. So anyway, the other thing I do is usually, and this doesn't have enough oil on it to do it, so I'm going to add some more oil because it looks pretty to do this. So I will swirl it so that the oil actually goes down the side. Oh goodness, there's this thing on here and you can't really see it too well, but there we go. You get down there. So the oil starts to coat. I don't think you can see it that well on the camera, but the oil starts to go down into where you shoved the athame down the sides, and that just makes it sort of last a little longer, and it looks awesome. I'm going to do the same thing to my other candle. I'm going to add a little bit more of this so I can have it go down the sides and look really cool. And just add a little bit of oomph to my thing here. Like I said, when I was in Lady Demeter's shop, she would have like these big, like, you know, when you get ketchup in the grocery in a restaurant, it's in those big squirty bottles. That's what she had her oils in. So she would put tons of all different kinds of oils, and she made her own. I'm not sure if you can see that, but right down the sides, I'm gonna actually bring this right up to the camera. Can you see that coming right down the sides there? Right here, the oil coming right in here. It's kind of hard to see. Anyway, but it just adds a little oomph to whatever magic you're trying to do. All right. So that's actually it for actually making them. We haven't consecrated them or blessed them yet, but that'll be our next step. So as you can see, dressing candles to do what you want them to do, more than just lighting a candle, is not hard. And it's actually quite fun and interesting and creative. And you can definitely get very specific in what you're trying to achieve by using various different things to put in your candle. Now, I do want to say to you, be careful if you put herbs on the top that you don't set it alight. Because if you have too many drives, thanks, Diane. I've done it before, so you just have to be careful. Don't be too generous with the dried herbs. Between the oil and dry, you know. So, safety aside. So the next thing I'm gonna do is actually I'm going to put together this mojo bag. Now, probably actually finding all the materials in my house to make this mojo bag is going to take longer than putting it together. So usually collecting all the stuff together takes way longer, but it's also part of the process, because I think as you're collecting the items, you're contemplating what you're doing, right? And you're thinking about what you need, what you really need, like what are you trying to do? It's always best to be specific. Be careful if you're not specific, you know, Be careful what you ask for because you might actually get it. So the bag I have here, like I said, I have, let me see, I've got different rocks here. These guys are kind of earth rocks. This one is one that actually has, it's a quartz crystal with included, I'm not sure what it's called, but just really super cool. It looks like a little world inside my quartz crystal. And then this is also a little stone that came, I think actually this is from Greece. So you pick that up for me. This is a calcified shell from my driveway. So in Florida, calcite is mined in the Everglades. And well, I don't think it's illegal to do it now, but sometimes if you have a gravel driveway, you will find calcified limestone or shells or other kinds of things. And calcite is a important healing stone. It usually comes in a number of different colors. I have my Colombian quartz crystal. Colombian quartz crystals are some of the clearest quartz crystals on the planet, and they're highly prized. And my sister gave me this, so that's why it's special. And my sister does my website, and she's my business. Go do it. And she's the one that's rah-ing me on my business stuff. So also another extension of why this particular stone is important. I have an aquamarine, and my aquamarine is for all kinds of stuff, but it represents Yamaya, and it represents clarity, and it represents for me water. And we live in Florida, and if you're a gardener or landscaper in Florida, water is a big thing. And so this kind of represents that aspect of my business. And then my beans, I got 4 pigeon peas. Sorry, they're not pigeon peas, but they are beans that I grew. I grew these 4 beans in my very own garden. And there's 4 of them because 4 represents the earth. And they're brown and black. They represent earth. They also represent growing things, right? They're beans. I'm planting seeds for what I want to be doing, where I'm trying to go, even if I'm not that sure exactly what that really means. I'm doing the best I can though. And then here's my little brown bag, which is a really sweet little, I think it's not linen, but flax. It's a little flax bag, and it's brown. It's like a tan color brown. So this represents like my business, that earthiness, right? Mm-hmm. So all I'm going to do is put all this stuff into the bag. Now you can make a little tiny bag that's not like this. Definitely this shell is this calcite shell is pretty darn heavy. So it may not be comfortable to walk around with it in my pocket. It might be a big old, are you happy to see me, or what's in your pocket kind of thing. But you can make much little bags or use smaller stones, or, you can just carry a rock around in your pocket. I've done that a lot of times. So I also want to put some herbs in this. I'm not going to put any oils. If you wanted to do oils on your stones, I would suggest maybe just putting it on them beforehand, like putting it all over them and maybe taking off any excess so that you don't have a big mess. But it can smell nice for sure. But the other thing I'm going to do here, of course, so I'm going to put the rosemary from my very own garden that I grew myself. Notice how I'm making a point of telling you that I actually grew some of this stuff. That's important. This is very personal. When it's out of your own, like this rock that came out of my driveway, I didn't make it, but it was in my driveway. It has my energy all over it. The truck that I drive for work. So you can see the depth of like it's simple stuff, right? Just a rock from my driveway, little rosemary from the bush out back, beans from beans that I grew in my garden. But they're super meaningful and powerful because they have your powerful energy on them when they're yours like that, when they're things that you can, like, either you know where they came from or you grew them yourself. So those things are very powerful, and I highly encourage you to do that. So the rosemary is in there for mental clarity, for protection, for memory, because my memory is really crappy. I know I said that already. And it also smells darn good. So when I open up, that's the other like part of this is like, I can just open this bag and stick my face in it once it's done. And all of those herbs, like, so the sage, I'm definitely going to put sage, because for me, that's like protection and clarifying and cleansing. And I definitely want to all that stuff. And I'm just going to put 3 leaves, right? 3. Always nice to put 3. It's a magical number for all different kinds of reasons. You can figure, you know, you can put any kind of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Maiden Mother Crone, you know, Sage, Father, Youth, all different kinds of things you can do with that. All right, the final thing I'm putting in here is lavender. And I love lavender. It is calming, and I have a little anxiety issue. So for me, it's like about sort of helping me not to get overwhelmed by my own fears so that I can actually function and do what I want to do. All right, so it's all in there. I'm going to take one little whiff. Rosemary, sage, and lavender. It smells spectacular. So now I'm going to close that up. Now I'm gonna put all my supplies to the side here. All right, so here are my 2 candles and my mojo bag. And so these are 7-day candles, and I'm actually going to burn them. Where are we? We're the first quarter, so I can burn them now because we're still at the beginning of the moon cycle, because that's another thing you might want to think about when you're doing candle magic or any other kind of magic is timing. Like, what's the moon cycle? What's the sun cycle? Where, you know, what time of the day you're going to do it. Like, I'm going to do it like at the start of my business day, because I'm trying to connect it with my business, right? So I'm going to put it on my I happen to be lucky enough to be able to work from my home because nobody needs to come see me. I don't do retail. So since I'm at home, I can actually, and I have a nice altar right above my my desk that's dedicated to all the business stuff. So that's where those things will go. And I will do it. I start business at 8 o'clock in the morning. So at 8 o'clock, I will light those candles. I'll probably light some incense also. I'm not sure what kind of incense I got burned here is Nag Champa, which is a nice all-purpose, but I'll probably burn something, some kind of incense that's more specific to my business stuff. So I might burn rosemary, or not sure yet, patchouli maybe. I'll see. Okay, so the other thing that I'm going to do before before we actually bless this and anoint, you know, make it so that it's ready to go, is I'm going to do a little cleansing with just a little bit of sage, and then do you want to put your stuff on the altar for blessing? Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So I'm going to do a little saging of me, Birch, and all the stuff on the altar, just so I know it's all cleansed and ready to rock and roll for when I want to actually burn it. And then right after that, I'm going to play a little bit of African music so that we can sort of get in the mood for the whole idea of the blessing of the candle in the mojo bag. So. This is for you all. Imagine yourself receiving this sage, cleansing you, cleansing your candle or mojo bag. Okay, so the final part of this is actually playing some music. Can you all hear it?
Not hearing it now.
Not?
Don't hear it now. Heard it in the beginning, but there we go. No.
Close to the speaker.
Yes. So.
Right by the phone, right? No, the speaker's right here. Oh, for the camera. For Zoom.
Yeah, when you're near it, we can hear it. When you walk away, it's gone. See? It worked. Maybe this.
All right, I picked a short one for you. If you were to actually your Rubid ritual, they can go on all night. And there's usually live drummers. We'll have live drummer for our Yamaya ritual in January. Okay, so now I've imbued my candles and my mojo bag with my energy and my requests from the Orishas to bless it and to help me in what I want to do. And I will, like I say, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I'm going to light those candles on my business altar, and I'll probably actually leave my mojo bag on there for a day or two to charge it up a little bit, and then I'll maybe carry it around with me. I might just put it in my truck to keep in a place where I can see it to remind me of what I'm trying to do. Well, okay, so now that that is done, this is a ritual and we do need to end it. So everybody, before that though, note that there are lots of offerings on this. There's always offerings. And if you are a real Santero, or if you are practicing for real any of those traditions, there's lots of money spent on things like flowers and food. You'll see here I've got a coconut with some pineapple and some watermelon. All of these are fruits that various Orishas enjoy. And I have an altar outside where I make these offerings to the spirits outside. But that is definitely very much a part of one of these traditional rituals. For Yamaya, I actually, on the evening before I come, I make a meal for Yamaya that I make as an offering on her altar that I personally will cook. There's like you can see how much of your personal energy goes into this. Like you go to not just to buy things, but you have to put them together. And when you're doing it, it's the whole process of doing all of those things, excuse me, is what really imbues. This is a really quick, really short little ritual, but it took me a lot longer to get it all together. And so part of the magic is also in the preparation, just like many of our other rituals. So anyway, so here we go. Let's end this rite. I would like you to please ground yourself by putting your hands up to Father Sky and then down upon Mother Earth, keeping any energies that you need for yourself and releasing the rest into the Mother to be recycled and brought back to you when you need it the most. It is done. Okay. I'm open for any questions you might have. Can you see if there's any questions in the chat?
That was great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Everyone can go ahead and unmute yourselves and
I can't read it.
Okay.
any comments or questions.
There is staying power. You'll never get rid of it. I love it. That's awesome. I like that. Thank you, Lisa. So does anybody have any questions, or did anybody connect with any of the Orishas at all? Or does anybody work with any of the Orishas already?
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, I work with Yamaya, as you know.
Do you work with anybody else, any of the other Orishas?
No,
No? Okay.
no.
Do you do any of the more traditional things, like do you call the ancestors and use a legua when you do any rituals with her?
I call the ancestors. I do not call a legua. It's a long story of how she came to me. But I had a very close friend who was studying to be a santera, and her uncle, who was like my uncle, was a babalao. So I have years of experience of being exposed to that, never mind the fact that I'm Cuban French by descent, and I grew up in all of that. So, I grew up in a house of brujeria. So Yamaya came to me one time when I was at the beach at night. I actually saw this light coming out of the water and this beautiful dark-skinned woman with all these beams of light around her. And I was waiting for my friend down at the shore. She was getting us drinks. I don't go in the water and I don't swim because I grew up in New York. I never learned how to swim. And by the time she got back to me, I was past my knees, like almost halfway up my thighs in the water at night. And she pulled me out. So my relationship with Yamaya is very intense and continues to get more intense every day, but I just work with her solely.
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share regarding the Orishas?
I mean, Janine knows that when I was still a baby pagan, I completed my year and a day when I was a Peace Corps volunteer in the Dominican Republic. And the neighboring volunteer had a friend who had a farm up on the side of the mountain. And he was really cool into the whole spiritual everything. So he was letting on the secret that I was a pagan. And I needed a place to go in secret to finish my dedication, my year and a day. So the other volunteer and her friend led me up the side of the mountain in the Dominican Republic. They found this tree. They were going to sit in the tree and like meditate for a while. And then I set up my altar overlooking the Caribbean. And as I was doing my ritual and I called upon the mother goddess, I happened to look out over the sea and I saw this woman, dark-skinned woman with shining beams of light, standing on top of the water, staring at me. And that was how Yamaya and I met. And a lot of horrible things happened in the next 3 weeks of my life, but Yamaya essentially saved me during those 3 weeks. So that's actually, let me kind of come closer to the camera so you can see it. This is a Laravar Stone.
I'll take it from you.
Yeah, it's only found in the southern Dominican Republic, right by where I,
Can you see it?
A little bit. Mhm.
yeah, right by where I was a volunteer in Los Patos de Barahona. And so I wear it and I bring it to anything Yamaya related because it reminds me of that first connection with her. And the color of the stone is just like the color of the water, turquoise.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Go see it with her, I think.
Down there, it definitely is.
So in the chat, Dragonfly, you have from Ta that she has worked with Yamaya on Oshun.
Okay.
Luke says he's never heard of Yamaya before today, so that's great. New experience.
So, Ta, can she talk or no? Or he talk? They talk? I'm just interested how they work with Oshun.
Ta, would you like to share either in the chat or by unmuting yourself?
Maybe not. Oh, well.
Okay, that's okay. No worries. Well, definitely the Orishas can come to you in the most interesting ways. I have heard a lot of stories of Yamaya reaching out, but she is a mother goddess, so it's not shocking that she would be more open perhaps to, you know,
Straight
whatever
volunteers.
children happen to come along. She is the mother of all fishes. So, and they say that because you can't count all the fishes. You know, her children are too innumerable to even begin to count. So, but it's very interesting, and like with any traditions, and as I mentioned before, I definitely get like there's some, I don't want to, crossover is the wrong word, but some interesting similar characteristics for different orishas compared to gods and goddesses in other traditions. And I basically moved, my family moved us here when I was 6 years old. So I've lived in Florida since I was 6 and I'm 55. So I've lived here a long time. And to me, the orishas have become so much really spirits of this place, because there's, especially South Florida, because there's so many Caribbean people here. And just like she came from Africa, you know, she's here in the Americas. And also with hoodoo and voodoo, Yamaya, if you go up into the Carolinas where they practice more hoodoo and voodoo, there are, especially like in South Carolina, there's a whole group of people that honor Yamaya exclusively. And they are, I don't think that they consider themselves Santeros. They are just, they practice strictly Yoruban. Like I don't even think they necessarily call themselves hoodoo or voodoo or root workers or conjurers, but they are specifically practicing African Yoruban traditions. So for me, in as much as I personally, of course, when I look at my family, you know, my family came over here. I can trace my people back to the beginning of the you know, of Europeans stomping all over America. So to me, since I was never actually, as a child, exposed to those ancestral gods, I feel like more connected with the Orishas and the other gods that are more of this place, that are of, because we're pagans, our religion is of place,
Right.
and it reflects where we come from. You can see all the traditions. If you have the Norse traditions, there's not too many palm trees in the Norse traditions. You know what I mean?
We manage.
So, we love you. And I'm a little Norse, actually. So, I mean, it's not like I'm without that, but I'm just saying, like, so for me, my religion is so connected with my place here on the earth that I feel like those are the gods and the goddesses of this place. And so
Yes.
I try to honor them as I can in the place that I'm at.
Right.
So I know a lot of, there's with many different traditions that like people would like to be more, I would call it Catholic. So there's, you know, specifically one particular way, and that's okay if you like that sort of thing, but I'm a fairy. I just like going to parties. So I don't care what you are. If there's fun, food, and drink to be had, I'll show up.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Well, thank you, Dragonfly. Great
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank
Wonderful.
Bye,
you.
everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Alba, would you like to close our circle?
Thank you for everything you did.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed the first one.
Yeah, me too.
Blow out this candle, but hold it dear, for everyone gathered here. From this grove we do depart,
From
but
this
keep
grove
its
we do
lessons
depart.
in our heart.
But keep it
Blessed be,
blessed.
so mote it be.
Heard it be.
Merry meet, merry part,
part,
and merry meet
Meet
again.
again.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Good
you so
night.
much.
Thank
Next
you.
Friday, next Friday,
See
not
you.
Thursday.
Looking forward to it.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. Thank you.
Welcome.